You keep saying you're stuck, like you're circling the same loop, hitting the same invisible wall, whispering the same prayer into a silent sky. But what if I told you you're not stuck at all? What if what you're calling stagnation is actually transition? What if you're not behind? You're ahead of your own awareness? Pause. Breathe that in. Because here's the paradox. You feel like nothing's changing, but it's only because everything has. And your nervous system hasn't caught up yet. You're standing in a new version of reality, but your inner compass is still tuned to the coordinates of an older self. It's like waking up in a new house, but looking for the light switch in the wrong place. Of course it feels dark. Of course it feels unfamiliar. This is quantum lag, when the field moves before the body does. When you shift on the level of intention, but perception hasn't caught up to sensation. And so, you keep scanning for the old discomforts, rehearsing the old patterns, interpreting silence as stuckness instead of sacred integration. But this isn't regression. It's revelation. You're not stuck. You've shifted. The room has changed. The frequency has changed. You have changed. The only thing that hasn't, the part of you still waiting for it to feel different before you claim different. So let me ask you, what if you're not waiting to shift? What if you're simply waiting to notice? The field does not respond to effort. It does not bend to desire. It does not reward good behavior. It reflects being, not what you want, not what you affirm, what you are. Pause. Let that land. Reality isn't listening to your words. It's listening to your frequency. And your frequency isn't the future you dream of. It's the self you embody right now. This is the first principle most people skip. The field doesn't change you. It echoes you, like a mirror that can't lie, like a shadow that moves only when you do. Your outer world is lagging behind, your inner coherence. So when you say, why hasn't anything shifted? The question is backwards, because shifts don't start with new results. They start with new resonance. When you rewire your identity, when your nervous system stops scanning for threat, when your energy settles into safety and worth, the field responds without fail. But here's the catch no one tells you. The early signs of shift often feel like emptiness, disconnection, even boredom, because the noise is gone. The chaos is no longer feeding you. The old signal has stopped broadcasting, but the new one hasn't fully arrived. And so you panic. You think something's wrong, but nothing's wrong. You're just in the space between stories, where identity has changed, but confirmation hasn't landed. This is where most people quit, but not you. Because now, you know the field isn't ignoring you. It's simply echoing to you. You're just beginning to recognize. You used to light up at the thought of it. That friendship, that project, that version of success. Now, it feels like cardboard, flat, dull, like you're going through the motions, in a scene that no longer belongs to you. And you start to wonder, am I broken? Have I lost my fire? But what if the numbness isn't a problem? What if it's a portal? Because here's what no one teaches. Emotional neutrality is often a sign of spiritual acceleration. When something once lit your nervous system up, and now it doesn't, it's not that you've lost passion. It's that your frequency has risen, and the old stimulus no longer resonates. You're not disengaging. You're evolving. That thrill you used to feel, it was perfectly aligned for who you were. But now you're becoming something wider, deeper, more rooted. And boredom, strange as it sounds, isn't regression. It's a recalibration. This isn't emptiness. It's spaciousness, a gentle in-between, where the old no longer fits, and the new hasn't fully revealed itself. So if you've lost interest in what used to excite you, take a breath. It doesn't mean you've lost your way. It means your path is shifting. It means your next timeline is already whispering through the silence. You wake up, and everything looks the same, but something inside you knows. It's not. The job, the friends, the daily rhythm. They fit, technically, but they no longer feel like home. It's like walking through a movie set, where the script is familiar, but the emotion has gone missing. This is not dysfunction. It's quantum dissonance. When your soul upgrades faster, then your surroundings can reflect it. You begin to feel like a stranger inside your own life, not because you've failed, but because you've shifted. It's déjà vu in reverse. Not, I've been here before, but I don't belong here anymore. And that's hard, because there's no rule book for this kind of grief. No language for mourning a version of life. you worked so hard to build, but have silently outgrown. You start to question, why can't I connect like I used to? Why does everything feel so far away? But this disconnection, this soft, aching distance, is sacred. It's the echo of a soul that's already leapt timelines. It's your inner reality shifting, while the outer still lags behind. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're just in the gap between resonance and reflection. So if you feel like a visitor in the life you once called yours, take heart. It means you've already begun to cross the threshold into something new. Have you noticed it lately? Time doesn't behave. One day stretches like molasses. Every minute thick, heavy, endless. The next collapses in on itself. Like hours have vanished into thin air. You lose track of what day it is. You forget what month you're in. Things that happened last week feel like a lifetime ago. And moments from years past rise in full color, as if they just occurred. This isn't forgetfulness. It's a frequency shift, because in quantum space, time isn't fixed. It bends. It loops. It folds. And your body, not your calendar, is the clock. Time speeds up when you're aligned, slows down when you're resisting, and disappears entirely when you're present. So when synchronicities start multiplying, when déjà vu flickers like static in your chest, when people you haven't thought of in years suddenly call, these are not random. These are signs of timeline collapse, where versions of your past, present, and future begin to merge into one moment, because your consciousness has stepped outside the linear. You're not just changing, you're detaching. Temporal detachment, the sensation of floating between coordinates, as if your soul is walking ahead, and time is trying to catch up. It can feel dizzying, unreal, disorienting, but this is what it feels like to outgrow the old momentum, to walk slower than the world, and still arrive faster. So if time feels strange, it is because you're no longer synced with the version of reality you once belonged to. You try to smile, nod, go along like you used to, but something in your body revolts. Your stomach tightens, your throat closes, your energy drops like a stone. You can't pretend anymore. Not to please, not to blend, not even to keep the peace. This isn't rebellion, it's resonance. Because when you shift, your system won't let you fake it. Not anymore. Old masks start to itch. Old roles start to feel like costumes. And the smallest acts of self-betrayal, saying yes when you mean no, laughing when something hurts, shrinking to make others comfortable, begin to register as pain. Why? Because your frequency has outgrown the performance. Because pretending is now an energetic mismatch. And your body, your sacred barometer of truth, won't tolerate the lie. This is vibrational integrity. When your nervous system becomes allergic to anything that dims your light, it can be uncomfortable, even terrifying, because for so long, fitting in kept you safe. But now, silence costs more than honesty, and your system refuses to pay the price. So if you find yourself physically reacting to people, places, or patterns you used to tolerate with a smile, don't panic. This isn't dysfunction. It's clarity, a truth alarm ringing from within. And it means this: you're not becoming difficult. You're becoming aligned. It used to set you off. That tone of voice, that sideways comment, that silence that used to mean rejection. But now, it lands differently. It still arrives, but it doesn't pierce. It floats in, but you don't grab it. You don't spiral. You don't rehearse your defense. You just notice and let it pass. This isn't numbness. It's emotional evolution, because something deep inside you has untangled the wire, the one that used to shock you every time it was touched. And without that charge, the pattern loses its power, not because the world changed, but because you did. You're not tuned to that emotional frequency anymore. The station's still broadcasting, but your dial is somewhere else entirely. Higher, clearer, quieter. This is the invisible evidence of real subconscious work, the kind of healing that doesn't announce itself, but shows up in the moments. You don't react. That's how you know you've migrated timelines. Not because the trigger disappeared, but because it no longer finds a home in you. You're not avoiding the pain. You're not suppressing it. You've simply exited the room where it lives. So if you're noticing the old wounds, don't sting like they used to. Pause. That's not apathy. That's power. You glance at the clock, 11:11. Again, a stranger says the exact phrase you were just thinking about. You dream of someone you haven't seen in years, and they call the next day. Little things, odd things, almost dismissible, but not quite, because something in you pauses, feels the rhythm beneath the randomness, and wonders, is this a message? It is. These are quantum breadcrumbs, small signs that your frequency is syncing with a higher pattern, a deeper intelligence, not superstition, not fantasy, coherence. When you begin to align, truly, vibrationally align, reality starts to whisper back, not in language, but in symbols, repeating numbers, overheard sentences, dreams that feel more vivid than waking life. This isn't imagination from a field you stepped into. You're not making it up. You're tuning in, because every shift in consciousness creates a ripple in perception, and what used to look like coincidence now glows with meaning. This is how a new timeline speaks. Softly, strangely, exactly, and the more you notice, the more it shows up, not because the world is changing, but because your signal is. So when you start seeing signs you can't explain, don't brush them off. They are markers, guides, echoes of the self you're already becoming. This isn't coincidence. It's coherence. You notice it first in the small moments. You're not bracing for impact. You're not waiting for the other shoe to drop. Your breath comes easier. Your shoulders settle. You move through the day with a kind of quiet presence. Not passive, but poised. And at the same time, your awareness sharpens. Colors feel richer. Conversations go deeper. The world feels more alive. This isn't adrenaline. It's attunement. Your nervous system has stopped surviving and started sensing. This is a quantum signal most people overlook because it doesn't scream. It whispers. You're entering parasympathetic alignment, where your body no longer prepares for battle. It prepares to receive. Your cells are softening into safety. Your muscles are no longer on high alert, but your consciousness, wide open. This is biological congruence with a higher frequency. You're no longer stuck in loops of protection. You're living from a place of permission. Your system isn't dulling down. It's refining, upgrading. And this clarity, this grounded sensitivity, isn't a fluke. It's a signal that the inner work is landing in the body, that the field is not just shifting around you. It's living through you. So if you feel both calmer and more awake, more rooted and more aware, don't question it. That's not a mood. That's a quantum milestone. You used to hustle your way through every decision. Map it out. Make it happen. Force the outcome. But now, there's space. There's stillness. And strangely, things begin to click. Without the grinding. Without the pressure. Without the constant, silent panic. That if you don't do it, it won't get done. This is the shift from effort to alignment. From control to coherence. You stopped pushing and started listening. And what shows up is not what you chase, but what you're ready to receive. Because true manifestation isn't about scripting your future into submission. It's about softening into resonance and letting reality rearrange itself around your signal. When you've really shifted, you don't feel frantic. You feel carried. Yes, there's movement, but it's not from force. It's from flow. The next steps reveal themselves. The right people arrive. The opportunities open. Because you are open. This is the state of being, where self-trust becomes the strategy, where clarity comes not from overthinking, but from listening to what's already clear inside you. And this is the deeper meaning of surrender. Not giving up, but giving in to the rhythm already rising to meet you. So if life starts feeling like following a current, instead of swimming upstream, pause. That's not coincidence. That's a shift in authority. From fear to flow. You think something deeply, and someone says it out loud. You write something in your journal, and hours later, a stranger echoes it back to you. In casual conversation, you meet someone new, and somehow, they embody exactly the lesson you just begun to learn. These are not coincidences. These are reflections. Reality mirroring you. Because when your frequency stabilizes, the field starts to synchronize, and the inner changes you thought no one could see begin to ripple into the external, like echoes from a deeper source. You're not just living your life. You're broadcasting it. And what comes back is not random. It's responsive. This is the mirror effect, where people become messengers. Moments become metaphors. And the world becomes intimate. A mirror reality doesn't just show you what's happening. It shows you who you are becoming. These uncanny alignments, the timing, the words, the serendipities, they're not magic. They're markers. Indicators that your broadcast is clear, that your signal is strong, that your inner reality is no longer a secret, but a magnet. So when the world starts speaking your language, listen, that conversation you needed, that symbol you dreamed, that stranger who understood without knowing why. These aren't accidents. They're affirmations. You've entered the realm where life begins to answer you. You used to know exactly who you were. You had titles, roles, a clear narrative to hold on to. Now, it all feels loose, like clothes that no longer fit, but you're not sure what to wear instead. You're not collapsing. You're shedding. And the part of you that once craved certainty is learning to breathe in the presence of the identity reconstruction. You're not breaking. You're dissolving into something softer, wider, truer. This is the chrysalis, the quantum cocoon, where the caterpillar does not strategize its way into becoming. It simply lets go of everything it used to be, so something ancient and encoded can rise in its place. You don't need to name yourself right now. You don't need to rush clarity, because the truth is, real transformation doesn't start with a bold declaration. It starts with a quiet unbecoming, a space where the old no longer fits, and the new has not yet arrived. This isn't confusion. It's creation. You're not lost. You're liminal, and the formlessness you feel is sacred. So if you find yourself unable to answer "Who am I?" with the same conviction as before, let that be okay. Uncertainty is not the absence of identity. It is the first language of transformation. You've seen the signs, felt the ripple, heard the quiet invitation to shift. But now the question arises, what do I do with all of this? Because recognition is only the beginning. Embodiment is where it becomes real. You don't need to chase the shift. You're the shift. But to stabilize it, to ground it into the body, into the nervous system, into the rhythm of your life, requires intention, not force, not pressure, just presence. First, regulate. Your nervous system is the soil of your reality. When it's calm, the seeds of alignment can root. So breathe deep, move slow. Let safety become your new baseline. Second, interrupt the pattern. Notice when the old story starts to creep back in, the doubt, the delay, the self-abandonment, and pause. Interrupt. Replace it not with perfection, but with presence. Third, rehearse the state, not the outcome. Don't try to imagine the perfect scene. Feel into the version of you who already lives it. Speak like them. Breathe like them. Choose like them. This is quantum harmonization. You don't manifest by force. You harmonize by being. And the more you stabilize your state, the more the field organizes around you. So if you're wondering what comes next, it's this. You don't have to become. You just have to remain in the frequency of who you already are. The shift didn't happen when your reality changed. It happened the moment you became incompatible with who you used to be. That quiet refusal, that subtle no, that breath where you chose presence instead of the pattern. That was it. The doorway. You didn't even notice it then because it didn't come with fireworks. It came with stillness, with clarity, with a soft inner knowing that the old self was no longer home. And now you're standing in the echo of that choice, not waiting for a shift, living inside it. But your mind still wants proof, still scans the past to make sense of it now, still asks, am I really different? Is this really happening? Yes, but you can't calibrate a new timeline with the tools of the old one. You are not meant to look back and reinterpret the ashes. You are meant to look forward and breathe life into what's already unfolding. So if it feels unfamiliar, good. If it feels quieter, beautiful. If it feels uncertain, that means it's real. Because you're not chasing. You are remembering. You are not behind. You are arriving. The work now is to stop asking if it worked and start being the one it worked for. No more reaching. No more doubting. Only choosing, again and again, to remain in the signal you've already become. In the comments, share one word that captures the version of you That's already here. Your frequency, your field. You now.